Hey guys, welcome. So I just want to say right off the bat that from the title of this video, you might be expecting me to sit here and try to talk you out of becoming a full-time indie developer or sit here and be all negative about it. That is very much not the case. I am all about chasing your dreams and taking risks and going for exactly what you want in life and doing everything in your power to make that happen. And for many of you, I'm sure that includes making games full time. So I'm not going to sit here and dump on your dreams. However, my experience of making a living with game dev has been very, very different than what I thought it was going to be before I got here. So if going indie full time is something that interests you, then you might want to stick around, because I promise you, however you think it's going to play out, it is very, very likely that it's going to be different in reality. And you should know these things so they don't come as such a shock later on down the line. Now, very quick, if you don't know who I am Brandon, and I am not just a full-time game developer. I am a full-time game developer and YouTuber. And that distinction is very, very important because I never planned on doing so much work with YouTube. And with that introduction out of the way, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right into the most brutal difference between game dev as a hobby and game dev as a career. And that difference is money. At the risk of stating the obvious, if you are doing indie game dev as a hobby, you don't need to make money from it. You have a job, or you're a student who lives with their parents, or whatever your situation is. Your life is covered, food is covered, rent is covered, bills are covered outside of game dev. If you go full-time, you are never going to look at money the same way ever again. When I had a job, I didn't think about money all that much. It came in and it went out. Sometimes we spent more than we had, sometimes we didn't. It was just really, really simple. With game dev, with or without a YouTube career on top of it, you're just gonna find that you never feel as financially safe as you did with a full-time job. I've caught myself thinking like, okay, I've got my phone bill, my internet bill, mortgage, property taxes, gas, electricity, groceries, school trip money, birthdays, Christmas, back to school shopping, Mother's Day, anniversaries, Valentine's Day. It's just like, I add it all up and it's like, life is so expensive. And I never used to obsess over it so much until I decided to change careers. And my once very stable paycheck that I knew exactly how much it was going to be and when it was going to come in turned into very, very, very unstable paychecks that kind of come in little bits from here, there, and everywhere. The reality of the situation is, unless you get funding up front from a publisher or a crowdfunding campaign or something like that, if you are just making a game and you're releasing it to Steam, there is a very, very good chance that even if it's a really good game, it's not going to generate very much revenue for you. Especially when we convert the amount of hours you've poured into your game and convert the amount of revenue you make into an hourly wage. And again, I'm not being negative, we're just talking about statistics here. Only 5.6% of titles that have been released in the last 3 years have actually been hits. And by hits, I mean they've earned over $200,000 in revenue. If we look at the flip side, 50% of games that are released earn $500 or less. And with hard work, a good game, a solid marketing campaign, good branding, and other things like that, you can absolutely 100% be in that 5.6%. There's no reason you can't. But when it comes to people like me, I'm not an industry veteran. I came into this learning as I went, even in terms of making actual games. So a person like me can see statistics like that and think, well, those are not very good odds. I think I'd like to find a way to fund my life outside of just game sales. And for me, that's where YouTube came in. So my whole point here is, when you decide to go full-time with game dev, as much as I hate it sometimes, I often have to think more like an entrepreneur than an artist. And I don't like that because I'm an artist at heart. Decisions like becoming a YouTuber were born out of necessity. Taking sponsorship deals and actively trying to grow my Patreon subscriber numbers, that came out of necessity. It was never my dream to do those things, but doing those things became a necessary part of supporting my dream. Now, as it turns out, just because you didn't expect to be doing something, that does not mean it's going to be bad. I love how many of you guys show up and continue to watch our content. I love how many of you support us on Patreon. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. So I'm very much not saying that it's bad just because I didn't expect it to happen. All I'm saying is you could go into this not wanting a publisher, for example, and need a publisher out of necessity. You might go into this wanting to make a 5-year project that's absolutely perfect, and you might find that you need to cut that deadline down out of necessity. You will go into this with plans, and sometimes those plans are going to need to shift on a dime, and sometimes in much bigger ways than you ever could have expected. So I'm saying you may need to be much more adaptable than you realize, okay? Now, Another key difference between hobby and career game development is your priorities. Your priorities are drastically going to change if you go full-time. I have days, and it's not even that uncommon, where I'm grinding away, working on my game, and one email comes in and that changes my whole day. Because of money, my priorities can shift around really rapidly, because ultimately what I'm always trying to do is what's best for my family. Marketing your game is always a priority, but it's a really, really high priority when you go full-time. It's no longer just, I want to make this awesome game. It's, I want to make this awesome game and find a way to make it sell. That's a big difference. And the other part that I haven't touched on yet, and I think is one of the most important, is the anxiety that comes with full-time game development, whether you do YouTube or not. The reality of the situation is not many hobby developers manage to go full-time. And if you actually manage to do it, there are going to be people out there that do not like you for it. And they will find a way to tell you, whether it's on Discord or Twitter, or they email you, or they tell you in a comment. Now, some people don't really care what other people think. My wife, Nikki, is like that. She just doesn't care that much. I'm not one of those people. And if you're one of those people that cares about what other people think of you, then this is a really, really huge point for you that you want to pay attention to, because people hating on you and hating on your ideas can break your spirit if you let it. When I had a full-time job, when I would wake up in the morning, I would feel not good. I would feel miserable or dread for the day. Now that I have a career that I love and care about, and I have an audience that watches what I put out there, more often than not, I wake up feeling extremely anxious or paralyzed with self-doubt. It's not a nice thing to have to deal with, and I'm not saying that this will definitely happen to you. I'm just saying that it's something you might possibly want to be ready for. I also want to reiterate, I'm not trying to scare you away from your dreams. This is just the reality of the situation. When you say things on the internet, whether that be on Twitter, or making a YouTube video, or releasing a game on Steam, the internet is going to talk back. Some people are going to like what you put out there, and some people are really not going to like what you put out there at all, and they will tell you. Now again, I'm coming from a very specific and particular experience, game dev YouTuber. I can only talk from my own experience. I do not make games full-time, just sitting in my office coding all the time. That's not my reality. Yours will very likely be different from mine. But so far, all you've heard from me is what I've struggled with the most. And despite the name of this video, I want to give you the flip side as well, because to me it just feels icky to leave on a really negative note. I want people to feel informed, but I never want someone to watch something I put out there and feel like crap when they leave. So let me give you some positives, and there are many of them, and they are big, okay? So number one is, there is an unprecedented level of pride and accomplishment that you will feel when you actually start making money from game dev. You are taking pure technical skill and turning it into something that pays your bills. There is a high in doing that having a job will never compare to, even if you have a really high paying job. Another huge, huge pro is freedom. Absolute and total freedom. You can get up when you want. You can work when you want. You can stop working when you want. You can take breaks when you want. You can take days off when you want. Every single thing is on your terms. That's the ultimate freedom, and I do think that that is something that everyone craves on some level. Going full-time with game dev will give you that. It's not always going to feel like you have complete freedom when you have such a massive to-do list all the time, but you can stop whenever you want, and no one's going to yell at you or fire you for it. Number three, and this is a big one for me, there is almost infinite room to turn game dev knowledge into a full-fledged business. People want to learn how to make games, and people want to play good games. So you can make games, you can make content about making games, you can sell courses, you can earn commission revenue from game dev products, you can earn revenue directly by promoting game dev products like sponsorships. There's no cap. You can stop at a one-man operation, or you could grow a huge company that employs hundreds of people and they're just all working on your game ideas. So game dev is definitely hard. It's hard technically, artistically, financially, emotionally. It's hard in a lot of different ways. It can also give you feelings of joy, challenge, accomplishment, and fulfillment more than any other career in the world that I can think of. But doing it full-time is not for everyone. Whether you actually want to do it, that's for you to decide. That's all I got. See you next week. Bye.